here. For those of you who are new to Instrumentl events, we put on these free educational webinars almost every week. And we talk about ways that grant seekers are overcoming challenges and finding ways to find and apply for more grants. For those of you who are new to Instrumentl, in general, we are the all-in-one grants platform, helping now over 4,500 nonprofits and consultants save time in finding and applying for more grants. Next slide, please. If you don't know me, if you've been to an event before, you've probably seen me, but for those of you who are new, my name is Rachel. I'm one of the events and community managers at Instrumentl, and I come from the nonprofit sector. Got about a decade plus of experience in the arts and culture world, and I help support all of these fun and educational programs that we do throughout the year with our Instrumentl community. So you'll see me and my colleague Shaylee's in the chat. We're here to help answer questions and guide the conversation today. FYI, we've got about an hour of content coming at you fast. We're going to be jumping in with Meredith, our partner, in just a moment. We will have opportunities for Q&A, so I'll be keeping an eye on the chat box as we go. Please ask questions, continue to share with each other. We love that about this learning community, so use the chat box frequently and regularly. We'll get a lot of great tidbits in there. This event is being recorded, and you'll get the slides afterwards, so no stress if you need to kind of hop in and out. You'll get everything right into your inbox. And honor your personal needs. You know, we want to make sure that you can bring your water with you, bring a snack, take care of yourselves. We don't get a lot of time in our busy adult lives to devote to learning like this. So take care of yourselves while you're in this professional development opportunity. Lastly, we hope you stay to the end. We have some great freebies that our partner has so graciously offered us today to share. One is a grant research funnel worksheet with some reflection prompts related to connecting with funders. And the other is a funder profile template for augmenting your research in Instrumentl with AI. And we'll talk more about how actually to use both of these resources as we go through the content today. Lastly, we will be raffling off a resource from our partner. So if you want to advance to the next slide, we can share what that is. Big reveal. We will have a raffle for everyone who stays to the end. So if you stick it out to the end of the program and submit your feedback form, you'll be automatically entered into a raffle to win Meredith's best-selling book, How to Write a Grant, Become a Grant Writing Unicorn. So thank you to our amazing partner, who I'm going to hand it over to in just a sec, who has offered these amazing freebies and an opportunity to win. And with that, we'll get right into our content for today.
Sweet. Hey, everybody. It's nice seeing some unicorns in the chat. And can you hear me all right? Because I changed my mic. Are we good?
Sounds great. Yep.
Okay. Sweet. So I am, the feedback from the last one was I talk too fast. So I'm definitely trying to chill. If you need me to slow down, just tell me. Like, sitting is part of the factor. Just moved into a new house. Got a baby coming like any day. So this is a sort of like the space isn't optimized. So hopefully we're not too echoey, but we can make it work. So, okay, here's the thing. If you know anything about us, our whole jam is that we show you how to write grants and get paid for it, whether you're doing that in-house for a nonprofit or you're wanting to freelance or consult. Our members have won over $1 billion in grants and made $6 million in the process of doing so. And about 20% of our community is in-house grant writers. Now, the game plan for today is unique. We're going to be talking about my signature funding strategy process. It is tried and true. No matter what project you want to run through it, it works. We're going to then shift into how you combine, like, what is the role now with AI and Instrumentl so we can streamline our research. So the first thing we need to talk about is the funding funnel. Okay, so this is the birthplace of the funding strategy. The first project I was thrown into when I became a grant writer was getting $5 million for the native village of Eklutna to get a clinic. Eklutna is just outside of Anchorage in Alaska. They actually had like one grant money and had to give it back $600K because they hadn't like secured the rest of it and the land hadn't been secured. And I was like 22 being thrown into this project thinking like, well, how am I supposed to figure this out if all these other like real grown adults haven't? But what came from this was this realization that grants are like dominoes, where we need to figure out what is the right order of grants to pursue and how do we stack them close enough so that if I win a grant, it helps knock over winning the next grant and the next grant. We are in momentum. versus they won a grant, knocked it over, it had no effect, or worse, you get a grant and you spend it and now I can't use it as match, right? So there's a lot of strategy involved in figuring out what grants should we go after before we go after them, right? So the way I think about this is as a grant research funnel. So when I was filming my OG, like original grant writing course that totally sucked, I was, showing Google research, how to find grants, and stumbled upon through a blog post, Instrumentl, while filming, and I actually had to stop recording and said, "Whoa, this just changes everything," and there's been no going back because it literally got us out of 40 hours of manual research on Google, which wasn't even effective, to a way more streamlined process, which I still follow religiously today. So the way I think about it is we have 3 stages in the funnel. Stage 1 is finding 100 grants. Stage 2 is getting that down to about 20 worth evaluating, and then the real go time pursuits. You would put this into a funding strategy. So who in the chat are all my unicorns that know exactly what I'm talking about? And this is a 12 to 18 month roadmap of what grants to pursue that gets everybody on the same page. And it's a it's a basically where you look at like what needs to be done to be funding ready. Yeah, there's Caroline. She crushes the funding strategies. What needs to be done to be funding ready? What grants are we pursuing? What's our schedule, etc. And what I find is that what I find is that basically if you don't do this step, you end up chasing grants haphazardly. There's that, I like to call it the spray and pray method, right? That does not work well. So this is like literally I've put capital projects that are worth millions to down to like a $50,000 project through this same funnel, and it works great. So we start with Instrumentl. I'm going to show you guys that later for your step 1. But then we'll take it from there. So I think I kind of already covered why this matters, but like it's legitimately how you apply for less grants and win more, get everyone pulling in the same direction. Because grant writers, can I get a +1 if you've ever had someone throw at you, "Hey, can you apply for this? It's due next week." Like where it's just thrown on your plate and you're expected to drop everything and go after it, and you don't even know if you're eligible. Yeah, +2. Yeah. Or you don't know if you're eligible. No contact has been made with the funder, right? And you're getting to this Bethany +10. Yeah, I mean it's a really big like systemic problem. And one of the old ways that you as a grant writer kind of gain power in this process and authority is having a funding strategy. You get everyone up on board. Laverne's +100. Okay, yeah. So you guys know what I'm talking about. So we squash that process and completely change it. And I actually had to go take a screenshot of this. This was Andre just joined us in the Grant Writing Collective. That's what I'm known for. And he had been doing research on us, so he'd actually contacted people he found online to see what they would say about our program. And so he ended up reaching out to this nonprofit trying to find a grant writer. Then and the executive director said, "Actually, no, I want to tell you about this. Prior to Learn Grant Writing, their organization had not won very many grants. After being in our program, the former writer had targeted fewer grants, doubled the organization's budget, and then was poached by a larger nonprofit that could pay her a lot more." And so it just goes to show like this is the power of what's possible when you follow a funding strategy process. All right, so let's talk about stage 1. This is the fastest, easiest process. So I mean, basically what we're doing here is just setting up our search and Instrumentl to find 100+ opportunities to consider. I think most of you know how to set up a search, so I'm not going to go way deep on that. Plus, I actually have this easy peasy finding grants guide that we just fine-tuned and topped off. So you'll be able to get this. And it talks through all of this, including literally, where is it? Like every step by step on how to set this up. So you'll be getting this at the end. But so that's why I'm not going to go too nuclear on this because I think most of you know. But the one pro tip I want to offer is this, which is this is where you're thinking really broadly and really creatively. Like, what are the types of organizations that could be partners? Can I have a local government partner with our 501(c)(3), and then all of a sudden we can go after more grant funding? Can the school district partner with the researcher, and either of them can get money that can go fluidly back and forth? What about even a for-profit business, which is a little less common, right? Partnering with a nonprofit and maybe a fiscal sponsorship relationship. Like there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but it's the only thing I want you to consider in stage 1 that you might not have. Okay, so now we're moving into stage 2. And this is where the objective is, okay, now I actually want to go from just like, I've set my search, I've got all these options. And that was the second thing that you all commented on, that you're overwhelmed by having too many options. And now how do I get it down to about 20 to 50 that are worth like really spending more time looking at? There are three ways to filter in this stage: giving priorities, eligible projects, and funding history. And I grew up as a cattle rancher, and so a lot of times it's during sorting season when you're, maybe vaccinating or doing anything with your cattle. You got like you're basically like in, out, in, out. Like you've got these cow calf pairs that are like running down the chute, and you're opening the gate or closing the gate depending on if it's like in, or out. That's how I think about this. It's like you are making very quick decisions on like, is this grant in or is it out? We're not going down the rabbit hole of like super deep dive research. This is where a lot of people get goofed up and like spend way too much time on grant research. You want to be very systematic. So the first thing we're asking, what are the funding agency's priorities? And as you know, this is a moving target right now with the current administration. But we're going to just look at this overview section that's inside Instrumentl. We're not clicking out to any websites. We're just looking for a general vibe check on, do we feel like what we want to do could fit here? And the biggest thing is, do not force it. I mean, sometimes we want to like contort ourselves in really weird ways to get access to other funding, but don't do that. Just not here. Then we need to confirm eligibility. And eligibility is a two-headed beast. So you have eligibility for like the project type, what you want to get funded. Are we talking capital projects, a conference, etc.? Or are we talking getting your, is your nonprofit eligible? Is your tribe eligible? Like, is the legal entity itself eligible? And we're looking for that right here. Then best indication of past giving behavior is, or future giving behavior is, past behavior, right? So one of my favorite features in Instrumentl is how they have really kind of like digitized and made 990 tax filing information not so cumbersome to look at. So I want to look at, what's the average grant award amount? What are they funding? Where are they giving funding? Right? So if I'm like in Massachusetts and I look at this picture here, I would know not to even bother. That's an out, because they clearly only fund in Alaska, right? So here's the recap that I want you to write down and really commit to your mind, which is, have you confirmed that there's alignment to their priorities? And this is, again, like high level. We're not going nuclear where we're talking to the funder yet. We're just looking for a general vibe check fit. Is the project type you want to get funded eligible? And has the funder made awards similar to your project or organization? Cecilia is asking a quick question about this. Were you only focusing on federal grants? And no, the answer is, especially when you're setting your search, and I can show you that real quick, but when you're setting your search, I want to look at everything. Everything. I want to look at federal grants, state grants, foundations, and even private capital funding. That clinic, we got like how much money in federal grants? I mean, it was all of it. It was federal grants, it was foundations, and there was even like private money that came through from like a $50,000 donation from their lawyer, the bank we even approached, that they do banking with. So I want to be going as broad as possible and not limiting ourselves. Okay, so stage 3, choosing the top grant pursuits. So this is when it's actually like the most time consuming and critical thinking intensive phase, when it's like, okay, what are the grants that are the actual, like, it's go time, we're putting these on the calendar, we're allocating resources, we're going for it. Right? So that's when we have these basically 4 filters that I now run this through: competitiveness, funding guidelines, contacting past applicants, and feedback from the funder. Okay, so this is a kind of a unique piece of my strategy, which is that I want to know how competitive a grant program is. And I want you to think about this, because you're going to ask me, you should be asking like, wait, but where do you find, well, the blank. So I want to know what percent of applicants were successful. And to do that, I'm going to divide the number of awards made by the total number of people that applied. And my goal personally is, I want a 20% or greater likelihood of success, because you could have the world's most perfect grant application, but if only 2% of the awards are getting made, realistically, it's not the best use of your time. We want to go focus somewhere else. And so, yes, there we go. I was hoping someone would pull it up. Evelyn is asking, but how do we know how many people applied? And that's definitely not going to be, almost never is that published online. So that becomes my first question to establish contact with the funder, just to reach out and ask, like very casually. I might even just pick up the phone and call. Like I'm not making a big deal out of it, but I'm just trying to understand, hey, like, so how many applicants did you get last cycle? Roughly what percent of those were funded? Because this is you have to decide where your barometer is, because a lot of industries are different, like certain competitive research SBIR grants, it's like, yeah, those are 5 to 10% are funded. And, maybe that that's what you're going after and you're okay with those odds. But for me personally, I was like, I want to be dealing in 20%, 15 at the lowest, right? Okay, so then we get into the funding guidelines. So this is when you're actually like downloading that PDF, you're looking at the NOFO or whatever the information is that's online, and you're really taking a closer look. How much work is this application going to be for the amount of money that we're going after? Do we still feel like a fit? Is there some sort of just like gotcha in there? Like I did a project. I used to work with this guy who's an ex-pro skateboarder. And so we worked on skate parks all over the lower 48. And in one of these state of Massachusetts park grant programs, it said you have to have an updated park improvement plan on file with the state. And I was like, oh, okay, I should probably make sure that they have that. And they didn't. Theirs had expired. So if we had waited until it was, the deadline, they wouldn't have had time to go through that process, which was 6 months at least, of getting a park plan updated so they were even eligible, right? Those are like the nuances that are the make or break of a proposal and the things you want to catch. So then contacting past applicants. Like if you want any of my grant proposals, you ask in the collective and I will give. So not everybody shares their proposals, but I'm personally of the philosophy like nothing ventured, nothing gained, like all ships rise. If you're already funded, you're already funded. And so I think there can be a lot you can learn from past applicants, even if it's not getting a copy of their grant application, even if it's just saying, how else did you get your project funded? If you have, so someone who gave the example of their free clinic, I would be contacting other free clinics and asking them, hey, what did you do? I'm working on actively actually getting money for a playground in remote Alaska, this little place that has my heart just wrapped around its finger. And yeah, I ended up contacting other rural playgrounds and asking how they got money and discovered a whole new funder. We just submitted a $14,000 request last week to them, and I didn't even know they would existed, let alone funded playgrounds. And that nugget only came from talking to some past applicants. So I just want to share that as a party trick. Then we want to contact the funder. So confirming like, hey, this is when I have a whole set of questions, which I think I have in that freebie I gave you. I wonder if I did. Hello, where are you? There they are. There you go. Time to talk to the funder. Here's some questions, you guys. So this will be literally things that you can ask them. Hey, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, in our 5th year. I believe that what we want to get funded is eligible. Do you agree? Based on that information, do you think we're a good fit for your program? Please just be straight with me. I need you to be real. Have you funded a project like ours in the past? Whatever. So these are like questions that are just really, really helpful so that you can draw out from them the real talk of, hey, should we be applying or not? And there's some nuance here. So there you go. You'll have those questions. And then where are we? But yeah, this is the part where when I get into like, where does AI fit into this versus not? Never before has having a meaningful relationship mattered more than now. And the reality is grant writers are busy. You have a million hats on your head. And if you're anything like me and you actually kind of like the introverted side of this gig and you like to just kind of work from home and be cozy and wear your Crocs, then the building a relationship part can be easy to put on the back burner, right? But yet this is actually now the most important piece. So we need to be saving time elsewhere so we can really allocate the time for that connection, which I guess I was kind of getting ahead of myself. Well, is there something you guys want me to chat? Did I miss anything really helpful I should be covering real quick? Okay, here's a good question. I'll just hit it real quick. Francisca is asking, as a grant consultant, do you recommend reaching out to the funder directly or do you encourage the organization to initiate the relationship with themselves? And the answer is it depends. So a lot of times, what I'll do is I would always copy the organization themselves if I was doing the outreach so that, they can see like, hey, I am like, they know I'm contacting you. It depend, you know what? I did a lot of federal grants where like they were down to just talk to me directly if I like picked up the phone and called. But a lot of times, you do need that. Like I found with foundations, like they really do want to have that relationship directly with the nonprofit, and sometimes can even be a little like put off by a consultant calling. So another strategy often is asking for a dedicated email that's like grants@nonprofit.org so that you can do that outreach from what feels kind of like it's an internal experience. Plus, it's better for you because then you have your own email for accessing like grant application forms and stuff. So there is sort of a it depends answer, but there's some really good strategies for making that happen. Um, and is it, John's asking, is it better to contact via phone or email? I think I think we're locking onto something here where maybe this needs to be a separate training we talk about. But I'll tell you right now, um, I mean, the answer is both, so you always have a paper trail of contact. But right now, I'm saying phone and in person is really important. Like people just don't pick up the phone anymore, so you have really nothing to lose to do so. Like you will stand out and punch through. And the other issue is like, I mean, tell me if y'all are experiencing this. I certainly am. People are just using like AI to just automate and blast out cold emails, and I can't tell the difference, nor do I have the time to decide what's like a legit person or just like someone that's scraped my email from the internet and is blasting me. And so other funders, I mean, they're dealing with this too. So I just think email has never before been so lost as it is now. And so we need to have different strategies for engaging with these organizations. Yeah, you're a grant writer because you don't want to cold call people. Exactly. I mean, that's kind of the relationship too between how many of you are dedicated full-time grant writers, how many of you are full-time fundraisers, how many of you are a blend of the two because it's a completely different personality. Okay, anyway, I probably should keep rolling, but I'm sure I'm going to miss some things. And we'll get to that. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about how AI fits into this. So, if you were to look at the grant research funnel, I want to know one, two, or three, where would you plug in AI and where would you not? So I guess to make that cleaner, sit like yes, would it be one, two, or three where you would apply AI and where would you not? So one, two, one, keep going. I want to know where you guys would apply it versus not apply it. Not three, one. Okay, so fascinating. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I want to know. Um, yeah, cool. Okay, you guys, you ready for the answer? Da, 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 da. It's definitely not stage one. And I'll explain why. I've seen, and I literally just saw someone do this. We have a very rigorous funding strategy certificate program. It's what precedes the grant writing certificate. And I just had someone do this where they just tried to use AI to run their search. And the answer, like the findings she had were insufficient. They were incomplete because ChatGPT is not remotely capable, kind of structurally yet, or how it presents its information to give you what Instrumentl will give you in terms of setting up that search, having a good place to process it. Because we're talking now like 100 to 200 grants, right? So I do not use it at all for setting up my initial search. Heck yeah, for stage two, all the way. This is very helpful because when you're doing that level of evaluation and you want to get to know more about the funder, et cetera, it can be very time consuming and give you insights that are just so good that help you then roll into stage three even stronger. And then finally, yeah, you all got this. Like, you really don't want to use it for stage three because, I mean, certain things I guess you could try to like see if there's applications published on the internet. But at the end of the day, like, this is the human side. So when I think about where AI fits into the scheme of things, I like to plug it right into stage two. Okay, so I want to know +1 in the chat if you have any of these concerns. The environmental costs of AI, energy usage, how can I trust if it's not making things up? You're wanting to learn it, but you're not sure where to start. What about losing authenticity and creativity? Not wanting to sound like a robot and to specifically make sure a funder doesn't think that you sound like you just wrote it in ChatGPT. Are you cheating? What about data privacy and security? Am I going to be needed in the future? Right? All these questions. Did I miss any? Anything that you're like, yeah, no, there's even more. I mean, I've gone deep. I know these questions are legit. For those of you that are asking about privacy, oh, where is my privacy? I have literally a privacy guide because we did this last April and I just gave it to you. Ping me on LinkedIn and I'll send it to you. Um, but the other thing that's going to be really helpful because I've seen this is, okay, there we go. I've got this resource. I'll put this in the chat. You guys can pull it. Look, I've spent a lot of time kind of like living and breathing this for the last 2.5 years, and I'm no like AI diehard, but I also think like it's an incredible tool. So I'm kind of like I can ride sort of a more neutral and I guess like a neutral perspective. And the one thing I will say is that a lot of the myths that are keeping you from even getting in there or using it fully should be addressed and you should look at them. Particularly, I'd say like the environmental stuff is very much internet clickbait that's being pretty significantly distorted. Not to say it doesn't have an environmental cost, but so does us being on Zoom right now, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that these concerns are legit. There's ways to think about it, and I want you all to spend some time thinking about it so that you don't just let the concerns keep you on the outside, but you do your research and then hop on in. Let's get going. Let's start using these tools. Okay. And the other thing I have about like kind of my opinion on AI is like I didn't want like I do think one of the challenges of technology is that it then sets this new high bar of like how much more productive we are, how much more efficient we are. And that treats us, the human being, like we are a machine. And we are not machines. I mean, sometimes it feels good when you like crank a bunch out, but on the whole, like we are living, breathing human beings that need to connect with each other, need to do valuable work, and we often are burnt out, and that's unacceptable. Like, need more self-care time, need more, space for the other things that make up who you are. So I've been very curious about like how do we use AI in a way that's meaningful and not just like a completely pointless, like one of my least favorite things. It just let's see if it'll do this. Like, where is it? AI gives this like I don't want a summary of a PDF or a summary of my Gmail. Like it's the dumbest, there's some things where I'm like, this is just so stupid. So we do have to kind of navigate that where I don't want you to feel like it's just about becoming a robot. My other, kind of unique perspectives that could be a little like controversial would be you don't need, in my opinion, AI specific software for grant writers. Now, right, Instrumentl is doing some really cool work with Apply, which will be embedded inside Instrumentl. But to me, that's just a bonus because you already need Instrumentl for grant research and grant management. So sweet, you're already paying for it. But what we do need to know instead is is there an needing to know how to use these existing tools because no one's going to be outspending or innovating them. Second, the window for comfortably learning how to use these skills, building that talent within yourself is closing where at least the window to do it comfortably at a nice pace is. In the beginning of 2025, y'all remember from economics class that the technology adoption curve. Well, we're out of the early adopter phase and we're now in the mass adoption phase. Now, it might not feel like that for nonprofits, but it is for the rest of the world. And so, like, it's go time in terms of like everyone using it. And then AI is not a tool to learn. I don't like to think of it as just like, here's another tool. Like to think of it as a skill that I have to build. So we're building foundational skills to use, and it shifts how we problem solve. So there's a lot of good stuff in here, like, yeah, the whole ethical issue thing, we can talk about that later. Fuller talking about like, is it lying to me? What do I do about that? And I've got answers to that, which we can answer inside the collective because I know you're in there. But essentially, I need to keep moving. So one of the most core skills that you need to build is understanding how to prompt. A prompt is a fancy word for give instructions. And the way to think about this is you wouldn't hire someone new and not define their role. You wouldn't give them a job description, right? You would give them a job description. You would lay out what the tasks is. Context, I would give them some past information to view. I actually just hired a gal, her first day was on Monday. Like I'm going through each of these steps with her as a real human, right? What does she need to be successful? When I ask for something to be done, I'm going to specify the format. Are we writing email copy, a website, a blog, right? What are we doing? Giving examples of what good looks like and then very clear instructions. And this is where most people get goofed up because you start typing into a chat and it's like a sentence or two, you get a generic response, you're frustrated with it, And you wonder, like, well, what's the point of this? I just have to rewrite it anyway. Well, that's because you're probably not prompting well. And there's a lot of unique nuance in this that I think is super valuable to learn, because this is the skill of giving good instructions. Okay, so we're going to jump in now to showing you how we're blending these two worlds. Okay, so if this is Instrumentl, you guys can follow along, by the way. It looks like with this link. She'll drop it in. But there you go. So let's follow along. I'm in my Instrumentl account personally. I'm going down to this project is the one, Baker County No Kill is the project that I've set up so we can talk about this. I'm not gonna go through like a huge, the stage one of setting up your search, but this is kind of interesting where you can, drop in an overview on your project and now using AI, Instrumentl will generate keyword suggestions for you, which is nice because one of the most cumbersome aspects in the past was looking up those words yourself. If you said in the beginning of the survey that you have too many grants, for those of you that said it, like it's just overwhelming, you have too many keywords. So just drop the number of keywords you're looking at, and then you can always add them in later. So that's that. Here's the matches set up. So again, like I'm always looking for creative combinations. Even though the Baker County is a nonprofit, a lot of times nonprofits work with their local government to deal with like animal rescue type situations, right? Putting in my location. And then down here, I'm personally a big fangirl of just like, unless there's absolutely not a capital project, I want to select everything, because I can always thin it out later. And then I like to look at funders from every sort. If there's one funder I don't look at for larger projects, it's corporate. Okay, so that's saving and exiting. I didn't make any changes. Sometimes I set a minimum for grants if I'm looking for big ones. Okay, so that is that. Let me go into my tracker. And then if I were now moving into, if I'm in stage one, hold on, go back. Where'd you go? I have too many things open. Matches. Sorry, y'all following along. This is what I was talking about with like having a card where I'm just going to glance at it quickly and decide, am I saving or not saving? Someone added a comment about how like you don't know, it's easy to say no. It's harder to know what to keep in. My hot take is like if any part of you is just like this feels pretty good, just save it because we're gonna thin it and kind of cull that list on the tracker side. Okay. So let's say, this feels like, okay, they help shelters and rescue groups save pets. That's totally our vibe. A median grant award of 25,000 looks great to me. Looks like they had a ton of giving and now it's less. So about 600K. Where do they give? Oh, they only give in North Carolina and Tennessee. So that's like a real out for me. There were only 2 awards in 2024. And they were obviously, so that to me is like a nope, hide from this project. I'm out with it. I want to look at the next one. So like that's how quick you're kind of just like rolling through those. Okay. So now we're going to go into the tracker. These are the grants that are already on my hot list. I'm researching them. I want to know more about them. I think one of the most valuable things you can do is just add notes here. You'll get to know these funders. You're going to have institutional knowledge, you might have a phone call. So add that commentary. But what I want to do now is I am going to go up into reports, go to opportunities, and I'm going to go to the project that I have. I'm pulling my, pretty much like what's researching is all I'm looking for. I'll say all years, and I'm going to create this report. So download it as an Excel file. It's easier for AI to read than a PDF. So now it's downloading. And in the meantime, I'm going to bring you over into, where are you? The freebie that I have for you. Okay, so this is what you'll be getting when you fill out like the survey form on what you thought how this class went. But this is kind of like a summary of how to use, can y'all read it? I might need to zoom in. So kind of how to use AI, the stuff we've already talked about, learn, grant, right, the Instrumentl, etc. And then here's kind of where we went with this whole like you don't need specialized software. But what I did learn was like, there's a lot of value in knowing how to build custom GPTs because that's how you get AI to sound like you, hold information, work with others. And the 4 AI besties is what I call them. We built was Winnie the grant writer, helps with grant writing. Happy to give you that. Actually, I have Winnie for free. I should have kept it. I'll have it as in a link that Rachel sent out. Riley, the researcher, is getting a major facelift right now by Stacy, who's in the chat. Stacy, say hello. Stacy is killing it and is behind the example project I'm giving you right now. She's like really gone deep on learning all things perplexity, which is just going to put Google to shame. And I'm really excited to share it. That's what we're going to be working in today. Then we have Penny, the project manager, and Ellie, the editor. You can build any number of custom GPTs, but the one we're focusing on right now is like, hey, let's work with Riley. So what I want to do is accelerate the stage 2 of that funnel. And here is literally the how-to guides. You guys will get the instructional videos on how to do this, and I'm going to walk you through it right now. But first, let's just look at this Google Doc. Okay, so this is the prompt that, well, I'm going to get to that in a second. Sorry, let's go back to, I'm now in Perplexity. So Perplexity is one of the, like, it's really, if any of you are trying to do research and you're annoyed with, like, if you're using ChatGPT, yeah, because it will make up more. Every resource that is answered in Perplexity is cited. So you know it's coming from an actual citation. So way prefer this for way higher quality research. Okay, so if I were to get this party started, I want to create a new space. This is going to be this is basically like building a custom GPT in Perplexity. I'm going to give a description of what this space is. So in my prep for this class, how do I get you to go away? There it is. I have, let's see, mission. I have this context, right? I have information on this organization that's prepared. What's the mission? What's the vision? What are our values? So I'm just going to grab the mission for right now. And are y'all following along so far? Drop that in here. The formatting got a little goofed up, but you get the idea. So this is the overview. Okay. All right. Then what I'm doing to give it context, to give it information, because remember, it's kind of like, hey, I've got this researcher intern I just hired. I want to add files, which I'm going to do locally. I thought I put this on my desktop. Oh, great. Well, we're going to go to my version that I already did this for because I don't know where it is. Let me see. As you can see, I have a screenshot problem. I use a ton. What we'll do is go to this space and I can show it to you. Okay. So if you look on the right-hand side, these are the 5 files I uploaded. And so if I were to open those just so you can see that, this is what those are. You know, it's like really well formatted, so I know that the AI can read it. This is kind of like mission, vision, values. Here is, you know, the program descriptions. We're looking to get funded a community spay program. We have the trap, neuter, return program, pet retention program, adoption program, education and outreach. Like you want to take the time to actually put all this information together. You probably already have it. Here's a sample grant proposal because I'm giving an example, right? Remember how we talked about those 6 aspects of giving examples, giving good context. So this is showing what great looks like. Here are the funding needs. So I'm describing how much money we need, the specifics, etc., right? On each program, how much money am I trying to raise? So that's all here, like medical care fund for rescued animals. Our goal is 25K. What do we, you know, how does that break down? Is everyone with me so far? So these documents here, you know, they take a little bit of time to gather and put all in one place, but they serve you over and over and over to take the time to format them. And this is the differentiator of giving good context to Perplexity so Perplexity can do a good job for you, right? So that's there. And then you can link up like the website. There's a lot of information there. And then adding instructions is really valuable as well. So if you have some specific, you know, we give you this inside our AI Besties grant writing course, we can literally just copy and paste in the instructions for basically building any custom GPT, but specifically the 4 that we talk about. So that's that. So now I have built essentially a custom GPT, Riley the researcher. Are we all good so far? Can I get a like, am I on board or are you confused? What do we need? Say like, all good because I can't see you, or slow down, help me out. Okay, cool. Sweet. We're all good, kinda. I don't know. The kinda is fair enough. Go read we'll get you in if you want. You can, it's a little bit overwhelming, but just like hang on. My kindas, I feel you. But that's also why I made step-by-step instructions. Thank you, Stacy, for the help. Okay. Stay cool. You got this. It's always overwhelming from the outside. Okay, so we opened Perplexity and we've opened the space, right? That's their version of calling basically custom GPTs. Now I want to copy and paste in the prompt, and this is here. So remember how I told you that giving good instructions typically is a 6-part process? So this is the template that you can go and copy and paste. So your role is that you're an expert grant writer for this. Your nonprofit will go here. What's the task that you're trying to complete? You lay that all out, how you want the information organized, the goal. Hey, we're trying to get this down from 50 to about 8 to 12. And then you're including your instructions. This is an example that came from Stacy, who's in the chat and amazing. And I just want you all to go find her on LinkedIn. Stacy, you should drop your LinkedIn in the chat. So she did this for Synergy CDC. So if you want to see kind of like that template I gave you is a starting point, but you can add more. Like I love how she had this reminder section of like, hey, remember, these are some of the specific instructions I want you to know, right? And here are her instructions, a little bit more fleshed out than what I gave you, but it's the same concept. And there we go. So when Stacy put hers into Perplexity, she got a final product, which I'll show you in a second, and it looks like this, where the grants were analyzed in Perplexity and ranked. So this isn't like the prettiest, but you get the idea, as a top 5 or a top 4 and presented, and it's organized in just really an exquisite way. And then this information can go back into Instrumentl. Now you probably want to watch that process actually play out. So here's my sample prompt. Can y'all see this for Baker County? So right now I've got, you're an expert grant writer. You're working with Baker County. Here's the task. Here's the goals. I added a little bit of reminder information in here as well. Here are the instructions, some unique things like I want, does this foundation have a total giving of 250K or more? Those are like some of the details that are right in a 990 form. Like I don't want to be messing around with super dinky ones. And then do you have any concerns? This is my favorite thing to ask at the end of a prompt, you guys. Do you have any concerns about this process or need me to clarify things? It gives you a chance for them to ask you, hey, is there something you need? So let's say, hit up Stacy. She's in LinkedIn. Like she is the mastermind behind like taking our Riley the researcher to a whole nother level. We hope to drop an update on this tomorrow, right, Stacy? I haven't looked at the latest videos. We're working on something right now, but I think we'll be ready to drop it into the AI Besties course tomorrow. Anyway, so I'm copying this prompt. I'm popping back into Perplexity. I'm pasting it in. Now, how does this connect to Instrumentl? I'm going to upload a file. Remember that CSV that I just downloaded? Just like killing me because I had these all prepped. Here it is. Okay, so make sure you name the CSV files differently and easier to read. Like if, the file will download from Instrumentl with like kind of a long and complex name, but I renamed it BCNK_funding research. And so just consider that something you do. So all that funding research that the Instrumentl did, I'm now putting in here. The other pro tip I'll add is you want to set right here. Do you see this on the lower part of the screen? Maybe I need to zoom in. Can you all see that better? So this is how you can set your search. Do I want to look at academic papers for sure. Social is typically like Reddit threads. I don't know if I really need social for this situation. I will, because maybe there's some interesting information on like, did the funder have a really active Instagram that shares their, what they're funding? But these, you can decide which of these you toggle on or toggle off. And especially if you're doing more technical research, having academic papers searched is awesome. Okay, and then we're going to set the search into process. So here, Perplexity is going to work. Let's see if I can minimize. Can y'all see this okay? I'm like, I have to be farsighted or it's too much for me to read. It's just going to work. We're going to let her do her thing while she's thinking, we're chatting. Let me see if I can catch up on some questions because I know we're starting to run out of time. Rhonda's asking, have you tried writing the prompt in Claude to put into Perplexity? Yeah, and one of the things that we're releasing in this new update with the AI Besties course is how you actually, is sort of like we love Claude too, but a little bit of a different relationship, which is how do you then take all this good grant research, not like which grants to go after, but let's say you've done a bunch of research for a grant narrative, like you've got your technical research on like the environmental reasons of why your I don't know, give me an environmental project, should get funded. Like you've got good research. Now you need to actually get that into a narrative. And then we have sample prompts thanks to Stacy, because she's like a Claude queen of how to get that into Winnie the grant writer over in Claude, taking research here and getting it put right into your narrative. So like, how do you have these different tools talk together effectively? So yes, there's lots of ways to do this. Um, and this can definitely be done in Copilot as well. Like that's why I just think it's valuable to try these different tools. I'm going to be trying Notebook next, like later on today, because it's something I want to know a little bit more about. So and then you shop around, you kind of figure out what you need and what feels good. And I will tell you right now that the new ChatGPT 5 that released is annoying as heck. Canvas isn't working for me. File upload feature wasn't working. Frankly, the writing was crap. So that was a little disappointing, but it'll get itself worked out. And yeah, so okay, so here we are. Now I have where are we? I want to go to my example I already did. On August 6th. So here is, because it's taking a little time to do all the research. Here is essentially what you saw in the example from Stacy. So here it's a little hard to read because we have to export this into a spreadsheet, but you get the idea. Like it ranked those grants of the 50. I think I uploaded 50 from Instrumentl. Let's go back and see. I think I had 50 yeah, 50 were in the tracker, and this prompt got me down to the absolute best ones from its perspective. Of course, I have to go actually do the work to triple check all of this. But you can see like this information is organized really, really nicely. I can download this. And then this can help me when I now get back into Instrumentl to more quickly decide what I'm going to do with organizing this information to make my final call when I move now into stage 3. So does that make sense so far? Like this, basically, we just took this 50 and we're doing the really cumbersome heavy lift part. I'm going to go read all of this. It's additional information. And then I bring it back into Instrumentl. And this is where then I decide, okay, yeah, we're going to go for it. This is a planned application now, and this is how much we're going to go for. Because I now just did a bunch of this research because I can cross compare. How much is their average award? How much do I think I could go after? What are some additional notes that I could literally copy from here and put right into my notes feature here? Does that make sense, everyone? Like there's this way that you can kind of now play in and out, going back and forth. But I would still, at the end of the day, recommend coming back into Instrumentl because you need to manage that whole life cycle of, okay, now you've applied and it was awarded, let's say, and now all of a sudden I need to actually go do the grant management side, and I can do that in here. Whereas I wouldn't be doing grant management from this spreadsheet, right? So let's see if there's anything else I wanted to cover on this. But yeah, I just copy and paste that into a Google Sheets, bring the research back in together, and then I go complete stage 3, which is contacting funders. So yeah, you're gonna get this and this prompt, and I think you'll really love it. And please do give a like enthusiastic celebration cupcake in the chat, something like that, to celebrate Stacy, who is really like some of the mastermind behind this prompt specifically, and the great like showing me this party trick. We were actually doing an internal event where she was showing what she was doing. I threw out like, wait, why don't you just export the entire Instrumentl report? And this is the product that came from that, which just goes to show that like this work is really meant to do collaboratively, because that's how you start to like build on each other and just see new insights and ways that you can do things, which is really fun. So shout out to Stacy, all the love. Okay, so that's what we just did here. What's your number one takeaway? I know we're almost running out of time and I've got questions, but I want to know what's a takeaway that you're gonna walk away from today's session with. Francine, who's in the chat right now, has gone so deep, calls herself not tech friendly at all, and then went and like immersed in the AI Besties course, immersed in additional course, learned all about Copilot, and is absolutely killing it. Bethany's excited to try over Perplexity. Yes, so good. I can start to see the grant writing highway you guys are on. Yeah, so good. Okay. I got to get proficient using these. Yep, it's so true. I mean, we all are. It's a work in process. I started to require my team to use AI in their work. And like when we first started, we were doing really basic stuff. And then on Monday, whenever we have our weekly sync, everyone was sharing what they were doing. And I'm like, holy smokes, like the girl that didn't know how to hyperlink a document when she started working for me is doing what? Like building an AI-based dashboard to like track how everyone, the community health score so that everyone gets help if they need it. Like it's just amazing. It was super just transformative to see how even in just the last 2 months or 3 months of requiring that, like how far every single person in my team has come. And it's just a skill. It's just kind of shifts how we think. So we have this AI Besties grant writing course. I know a bunch of my grant writing unicorns have taken it, not as many people on the kind of outside of our world, but this is the first time you can take something from me that doesn't require being a member of the collective. We have an Instrumentl based discount. I finally just got the website up for it. Took forever, but here it is. So you can go and check this out. I have a training right here that will take what we did today and kind of go even further. So I do recommend watching that. It's, I think, 20 minutes long, poured a ton into it. So I check that out. And then if you decide to join us, which I would highly recommend, you can use the discount code Instrumentl. So when there's some sort of discount code somewhere. So put in Instrumentl and it'll save you money through the rest of the year. Okay. I know I tried to grab as many questions as I can, but I'm sure I missed some.
I've got a couple for you.
Okay,
Are you
hit
ready
me.
to jump in? I
Yeah.
mean, first I'll pause for a second. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
jam-packed. I know people were responding in the chat, just like, oh my gosh, this is so much great practical content. And I was just totally zoned in for the past 55 minutes.
Wait, good. That's the vibe. That's what we're going for.
Yeah, I love that. I probably will need to even like rewatch this to like make sure I got everything. So don't worry, folks. You'll get the slides, you'll get the recording.
Yeah, you'll get all these
to run
freebies.
with.
It'll make it
Yeah,
all make a lot more sense when you're
for
doing it
sure.
on time.
But I have just a couple that I feel like would be good to leave folks on and just feeling empowered about these next steps.
Yeah.
Evelyn asked, how much time should we spend on that stage one, or I guess like filtering process in general to identify those
Yeah.
final grants we apply to? What would you guess?
Well, wait a minute. That's actually three different stages. Because stage one, how much time is the question, Evelyn? How to get? I guess I'll just answer how much time you spend
How
on each.
much time to get to the final grants, like the ones that they're actually applying to?
I would love to know what the unicorns have to say that are in the chat, like how long it takes you guys, because okay, here we go. This is going to be a really bigger answer than you probably want. There are two ways to think about a funding strategy. I call it there's the heavy duty funding strategy and there's the light funding strategy. A heavy duty funding strategy is when you are getting that stage level 3 list down to like the absolute go-getters. These are the ones we're pursuing, and that requires a lot of time talking to funders. So if you factor in that time of setting up calls with funders and talking to them, you're looking at an 8-week process from when you begin, 6 to 8 weeks to when you've like really hammered out all the fine-tuned details of like, these are the 10 grants we're going after this year or whatever, right? So that's going to be a little bit more intensive process, 6 to 8 weeks from beginning to end, because it just takes time to get on people's calendars, right?
Totally.
The lightweight funding strategy, which is often one of my favorite things to do, just when you're like, what's out there? What are our options? Let's get it down to at least like a good list we can bring to our board, but you're not, and you've done some funder outreach, but you haven't like finalized it. That can be done. Like you can do that. You can do that this week, right? I still say that you need time because you still need to like have some contact with funders because I still want to know that competitiveness detail.
Yep.
But now if we back up to like, what does stage one take you to set up a project search and get findings? I mean, that takes you an Instrumentl 3 minutes.
That's usually
And
our
that
best.
is,
Yeah.
you would never get that in instant, like that would be hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and you would never find all the findings. And then, but when you're getting it to this, like, where am I tracking it? Like, I try to move really quickly. Like, if I have more than, like, obviously I have too many matches, 346 is just way too many. I like to kind of process from about 250 or less.
Yeah.
This process should take you, like 10 to 15 10 hours. I don't know. It depends on how, like, you're going quickly, but also like I don't want to be throwing junk into the tracker that then I have to go filter later. Like it's sort of it depends on how many you're finding, but this process is not like instant, because this is actually the most important part. Like if you think about it, like if you do this part well, you save quantum amounts of time on the back end. Because if you apply for one grant that was a waste of time that you weren't eligible for, they were never going to fund you, you made no contact with the funder, then that amount of time, like there's no, even a simple LOI is 10, 15 hours of work, right? So
It's not
even
nothing.
using like
Yeah.
AI by the time you've submitted and all of the things. So like that amount of time, if it's just for naught because it shouldn't have been on your list in the first place, pays for itself in managing this upfront process where you're
Mhm.
building out this grant calendar. But then like recognizing there is some ongoing maintenance because sometimes new programs become available or the deadlines are shifting and like it is a living document that you're working with. So, I mean, I think my answer is like it is at least 10 times faster and more thorough to use Instrumentl to do all this whole process. And I think AI is just allowing us to augment the depth of research that you actually have the time to, because
Yeah.
it just takes time to do research. Research is time consuming and it's speeding up some of that process. So you have really good information to make choices.
Totally. And love that. No, and someone just asked if I'll get the recording. Yes, you will definitely get the recording. I know we're at the right at the top of the hour. There was one other question I wanted to highlight because you talk about this kind of like researching past applicants and getting a sense of like who has been funded by a funder before. John had asked, how do you get access to past applicants or even know who they are? And I had a couple of ideas, but I wanted to hear what you thought, Meredith. How do you find folks that have been funded by a funder before?
Well, obviously just come in a View 990 report
Yeah.
and where is it? Here. It's like boom, right there. One day sooner. Got 17K.
And what
Boom.
they were funded
Contact
for.
them,
Yeah.
right? It's amazingly easy because of this. I mean, if you've actually ever spent time in the actual 990 IRS forms, like you will not want to do that for long. That is a definition soul-sucking task. And again, if we get drained down and we don't have any creative juice left because we're just brain dead, we're then not doing funder outreach. We're not doing the other things, the writing, the part that only you can do. So we need tools like this that kind of keep our mind clean and clear. A cluttered space, a cluttered mind. It's the same thing in the work that we do.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah. And John had another question that I want to highlight just because I think we need to do a whole other workshop on
Yeah.
this, to be honest. How do you prioritize taking time to find creative ways to reach out to funders who don't have an open application or an LOI? They're in
I have a
need,
blog
right?
post on this. I wonder if I can
Yeah,
find it. I should just see if I can. I don't think our blog feature is working right now, like the search feature, but let me see if I can find it because this is a really common question.
Bethany had a similar one as well.
Oh, my thing
How
is,
do you get that funder intro when you aren't submitting cold ops or it's an invite only situation? But yeah, I wanted to highlight that obviously, this is something that we could spend probably a whole other hour on. So happy to share some resources. And Meredith, if you find it after, I can send it in the follow-up
there,
email.
boom, found it. Thank goodness for
Wow.
Google. So that's at least some starting points. But what I will say is, some leveraging. I'd say like my high tips would be like, this is one of the reasons you have a board. So ask for their relationships, and that's
Yep.
something you should task them with is going and building that relationship. Very fun for them. And then I think going to those locations and like going to places they're going, and then phone calls. Like just get away
Mhm.
from email. Like just pick up the phone and call. People do
Yeah.
want to talk to another human. So
Yeah.
yeah, good stuff.
Great questions.
Cool.
I will wrap us up here because I know we are all incredibly busy procurement professionals and it's already 2 minutes after the hour. One thing I do want to highlight, we do have 2 other events coming up, both
Oh yeah,
next
sorry, I'll
week.
screen share.
Oh,
My
no
bad.
worries. You're good. I can just talk about it. I don't need to have the screen up. One would be next Wednesday. Yes, thank you. Next Wednesday, we have Matt Watkins, who is a federal grants expert, talking about how federal grants have changed with the recent updates. Highly recommend you attend that. The link to RCP is in the chat. And then we also have Siobhan Richardson, who's the president of the Grants Professional Association, talking about growing your professional grants community. So highly recommend both. I think they will be exceptional speakers and just a moment of learning together with grant professionals, which is what we love to do. So hope to see you there. Last thing I'll say before a big thank you to Meredith is that if you comment on this LinkedIn post that Shaylee's going to help me drop a link for in the chat, you will get an extra entry in our raffle. and just share one takeaway that you had from today. You already commented on some of them in the chat box, so just copy and paste that right into LinkedIn. We love to see what folks learned. Once you exit this webinar, you'll see the feedback form pop up, and that will give you automatic entry into our raffle. So with that, thank you, everybody. And mostly thank you to Meredith for doing this webinar at your very end of your pregnancy. And we're wishing you well on this beautiful next stage of your journey.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Koyana, that was amazing. Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay, awesome, you guys. Hit me up in LinkedIn if you need anything else. Otherwise, look for that email with all the freebies.
Awesome. Yep. We'll be following up with a ton of resources. Thanks, folks, for joining us. As always, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.